The PlayStation 5 is a powerful console, but not every game takes advantage of it. Here are the top 20 games run at 4K and 60 frames per second. The latest entry in the Need for Speed franchise garnered attention due to its cel-shaded visuals, giving the game an anime aesthetic. This shift in art style is the 2022 release's defining feature, as otherwise, the entry largely builds upon the work of its immediate predecessor, Need for Speed Heat. That is not a criticism either, since the 2019 game is a good arcade racer in its own right. Need for Speed Unbound does not allow PS5 owners to prioritize performance or graphics. Instead, the game generally strives to offer 4K and 60 FPS at all times. However, both are dynamic, so the resolution and frame rate can drop at times. Open-world games regularly opt to use this method to adapt to their vast and diverse maps. Unbound's Lakeshore City is not extremely dense, although it is reasonably expansive. As the Fatemaker, players have to repel the revival of the Dragon Lord, a quest that delivers quite a few laughs and epic moments. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is not a huge departure from the mainline entries, but it does incorporate some traditional RPG concepts along with envisioning a classic fantasy world as the setting for the adventure. On the PlayStation 5, players can either set the game to performance or resolution mode. The latter offers a dynamic 4K resolution and 60 FPS. Meanwhile, the former drops the resolution to 1080p, but doubles the FPS. As 120 FPS is noticeable in a first-person shooter, performance mode is definitely worth trying, although resolution mode delivers the best of both worlds. The original Crysis was such a taxing game that it became the benchmark for analyzing a PC's power. Can it run Crysis? Is a meme, to the point that it almost overshadows the fact that all three entries in the series are pretty fun shooters in their own right. Although it can drop to 1080p on occasion, the remastered trilogy does generally reach 4K resolution at 60 FPS for all three games. The Crysis Remastered Trilogy offers enjoyable gameplay and beautiful graphics to players looking for an enjoyable shooter with above-average visuals and well-paced campaigns. This open-world shooter delivers a steady 60 FPS at 4K resolution on the PlayStation 5. Far Cry 6 takes place on Yara, a fictional Caribbean island that is controlled by a ruthless dictator. Like the previous entries in the series, Far Cry 6 is happy to let players run wild on its vast map as they find new and exciting ways to clear out outposts. Far Cry 6 doesn't reinvent the wheel in any significant way, but the franchise's formula is by no means broken. There is a lot of joy to be had here, as long as people go in expecting a typical Far Cry experience. Crash Bandicoot 4 is a welcome revival of the classic series. Console gamers looking to play kid-friendly marsupial romp are served by the power of the PS5. The game runs at full 4K and 60 FPS and is noticeably smoother and sharper than on the PS4. The PS5's solid-state drive also means that the game loads extremely quickly, which is a welcome change for anyone who remembers the original trilogy's lengthy load times. Arc System Works is among the best developers in the fighting game genre, even if the majority of the studio's franchises can be overwhelming for newcomers. Guilty Gear Strive succeeds in reducing the license's entry barrier while retaining the tight and punishing combat system that has defined the series since its inception. Guilty Gear Strive runs brilliantly on the PS5, offering 4K visuals alongside 60 FPS. Players seeking a 9th-generation fighting game can do much worse than Guilty Gear Strive. Just make sure to play through the tutorial. A remaster of a PSP release, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is not quite as impressive of an update as Final Fantasy VII Remake. However, that should not take anything away from the strong core package, which has aged surprisingly well. A prequel to the main game, Crisis Core expands upon Sephiroth and Cloud's origin stories, all the way delivering a solid, if convoluted, battle system. All things considered, Final Fantasy VII Reunion is quite good-looking, even if its tiny stages and repetitive missions expose its handheld origins. The locked 60 FPS allows the hack-and-slash combat to shine, and the attack's visual effects are impressive. The 8th mainline entry to the Resident Evil series is well-served on the PS5. The new and wonderfully magnetic nemesis Lady Dimitrescu is a compelling enough reason to play the game. But for gamers who want to witness the giantess in her full splendor, the PS5 is eager to please. Village supports native 4K resolution, 60 FPS, and ray tracing. This means that your happy romp trying to elude and escape from the beautiful vampire aristocrat will remain unmarred by bad mood lighting. Borderlands 3 is a fun, intense game that retains many players. And with an incoming movie adaptation, there's hardly been a better time to get into it. Given everything, the team over at Gearbox decided to grace gamers with a welcome upgrade. The PS5 version of Borderlands 3 offers a performance mode and a resolution mode. The performance mode renders the game at 120 FPS and lower resolution, whereas resolution mode runs the game at 4K and 60 FPS. The next gen also offers faster loading times across the board, and this change is huge for Borderlands 3. The improvements to menus alone solidify how the PS5 version of the game is how it's meant to be played. If you are enjoying the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an ambitious entry to a long-running series. The Assassin's Creed games have always been known for realizing beautiful historic settings. Valhalla is no different, bringing its feudal frontier to life as players explore and conquer the English countryside in the shoes of 9th-century Norse invaders. Like with other titles, gaming on the PS5 is a favorable prospect. Even with its graphical boost, the PlayStation 5 handily keeps up with Valhalla's demands and ensures that the player experience is as seamless as it is immersive. Stray garnered quite a bit of hype prior to its release, and the Cyberpunk project managed to live up to the hype. As suggested by its title, this game casts players as a cat that finds their way into a city run by robots and androids. In order to make it back to its home, the adorable feline goes on an adventure filled with puzzles, platforming, and some combat. While quite short in terms of length, Stray makes up for it through beautiful and detailed locations that come filled with NPCs that have their own stories to tell. The gameplay is also pretty decent, and the campaign shakes things up frequently enough to ensure none of the mechanics overstay their welcome. Stray runs smoothly on the PS5, reaching both 60 FPS and a 4K resolution. Astro's Playroom is a rare tech demo that is also a genuinely great game. Modern Sony systems are not particularly known for their 3D platformers, but Astro's Playroom stands comfortably alongside the genre's strongest recent releases. Irresistibly charming and visually stunning, the game guides players through 4 worlds as they complete levels filled with nods to PlayStation's past. Astro's Playroom is likely to be most people's first PS5 game that supports 4K and 60 FPS, and it is more than good enough to satisfy those expectations. Lasting roughly 5 hours, the platformer never threatens to overstay its welcome or produce a dull moment. Considering Astrobot Rescue Mission is also incredible, this franchise really deserves to become a Sony mainstay. Considering Monster Hunter Rise debuted on the Nintendo Switch, it should have been a given that Capcom's PS5 and Xbox Series ports would be able to handle 4K and 60 FPS. However, the publisher went a step further by adding a graphics mode that aims for a higher resolution than 4K, although this does come at the expense of a locked frame rate. Featuring smaller areas than Monster Hunter World, Rise is a more streamlined experience, which just means that missions get to the core action as quickly as possible. While the environments are nothing to write home about, the visuals for the monsters are high quality. More importantly, the combat is as smooth as butter. This free-to-play action RPG made its way to the PS5 in April 2021, bringing 4K resolution and 60 FPS with it. Genshin Impact took the world by storm when it debuted in 2020. The game offers an expansive open world, a gacha system that gives players the chance to pull one of a plethora of playable characters, and a constantly evolving storyline. Genshin Impact isn't quite as visually impressive as most high-end PS5 games. However, the RPG's stylized graphics are charming and vibrant. The character designs are also top-notch, as are the animations used in battles. Genshin Impact is an impressive game considering it can be played for free, and it is not going anywhere anytime soon. Multiplayer games tend to be unpredictable due to their performance depending on a user's connection. However, as long as no external factors interfere, Chivalry 2 runs at 60 FPS while managing a 4K resolution. Torn Banner Studios' hack-and-slash game drops players in large-scale medieval battles with melee combat taking center stage. Precision is the name of the game here, as players must not only swing their weapons accurately and intelligently but parry any incoming attacks. Consequently, 60 FPS is crucial. The asymmetrical horror multiplayer game Dead by Daylight is among the breakout hits of the last generation. Players assume the role of victims who must flee from a player-controlled killer. The game still boasts a strong player base of about 25 million across all consoles. Getting into the game on a new console is a safe bet, as developer Behavior Interactive continues to update the game with new content and events. Dead by Daylight on the PlayStation 5 is a welcome upgrade over other versions. The game runs at 4K and 60 FPS standard and also ups the visual fidelity so that gamers can really appreciate all the gory details. Arcane Studios' Deathloop is Groundhog Day with guns. An assassin has to take out 8 targets in 24 hours, a process that proves to be anything but simple. Luckily or unluckily, depending on someone's perspective, Colt keeps on reliving the day, allowing him to accumulate information as he seeks to perform a perfect run. Deathloop's gunplay is frantic, balanced, and accessible. The game combines a solid selection of weapons with an array of powers that develop throughout the campaign, along with other elements such as stealth and gadgets. Deep, unique, and plain old fun, Deathloop is the complete package.
Our positions were switched.
It might have taken a while, but Capcom finally released the Devil May Cry game that fans deserve. Originally debuting in March 2019 for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, Devil May Cry 5 went next-gen with its Special Edition, a version that includes Virgil as a playable option. Permitting ray tracing is disabled, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition runs at 4K and can reach roughly 60 FPS. The game comes with a variety of performance modes, including the ability to play at 120 FPS at 1080p. Devil May Cry 5's combat might be the most complete in the hack-and-slash subgenre, and the Special Edition offers the best version of it. The Gran Turismo series has always pushed the visual envelope. Now its presentation on the PS5 approaches new levels of beauty by boasting both fluidity and clarity. Whereas 2017's Gran Turismo Sport hovered around 30 FPS on PS4, Gran Turismo 7 boasts 4K resolution, a smooth 60 frames per second, and ray tracing to boot, although the latter two features cannot be achieved simultaneously. While the racing game has attracted quite a bit of criticism for some of its practices, the gameplay itself is fantastic, ranking among the best on the market. Gran Turismo 7 looks amazing and runs beautifully. Originally released on the PS4, Persona 5 Royal is available natively on the PS5. In the grand scheme of things, the fact Sony's console can run a 4-year-old JRPG at 4K and 60 FPS is not particularly impressive. However, that does not take anything away from the fact the game looks and performs great. At this point, Atlas Game is one of the most stylish projects across 3 PlayStation generations, and its anime visuals will undoubtedly stand the test of time. As an improved frame rate does not have a significant impact on turn-based combat, the 4K jump is far more important in the case of Persona 5 Royal. Aesthetically, the JRPG has never looked better and cooler than it does on current generation hardware. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.